So we are ready to go? Great. So welcome to the talk about SUSE Studio. I will tell you now how to create customized openSUSE versions with SUSE Studio. So my name is Cornelius Schumacher. I will start with an overview about Studio, and then Daniel Bornkessel will do the demo. And later we will have some example appliances, and Andrew and Jordi will tell a bit about that. So that's where we go. That's the three parts. So let's start with an overview about SUSE Studio. Who of you has already seen Studio? Who knows what Studio is? Please raise your hand. Okay, and who's actually used Studio to create appliances? Okay, so you can learn something about Studio, how it works, what it is, and what we want to do with it. So our vision is we want to enable the community to create customized openSUSE versions. We basically want to enable everyone to create a distribution. And we want to make this as easy and fast and accessible as possible. So what we are trying to do is we want to really make it easy and make it possible to create and share customized versions of openSUSE and software appliances. So as I will use the term appliance a bit, some words about what I mean by software appliance. So basically, a software appliance is a combination of an application with the underlying stack of software which is required, together with the configuration. So it's bundled in one thing. So it's easier to deploy, it's easier to maintain. So it makes life easier for customers, for users, for creators, for everybody. So a software appliance can be either a virtual appliance, like a VMware image or something you run under KVM, or it can be, for example, a live CD, which we also consider to be an appliance in the context of Studio. So and our vision is to make this as easy and possible as it can be. And some use cases for that. So why would you want to do that? For example, you could create live CDs. One example is a mono live CD where you want to demonstrate the mono system and how it works with some example applications. So the mono team actually has done that with Studio, and there's a mono live CD which is distributed at trade shows and stuff like that. Another use case would be you want to enhance your distribution. So you have openSUSE 11.01, you are happy with it, but you want a more recent version of KDE. So you take KDE 4.2, put it on your own version of openSUSE, and put this on a USB stick and carry it with you as a live USB stick. So that's also something you can do with Studio. Or you do demo CDs. I have as example Kraft, which is an application for small businesses to create invoices and offers. And so somebody, the author of that made a demo CD with some sample data, and so users could try that out. And this demo CD, which was built with Studio, was I think on the February edition of the German Linux magazine. So it's a nice way to distribute a complete stack of software where you know it's working and you don't have to install and set anything up and stuff like that. That's more or less graphical applications, desktop applications I talked about. You also can do server appliances. For example, you could do a LAMP server appliance where you put the stack of Apache and MySQL and PHP and all the underlying operating system into one appliance. And then you can deploy that and just put your own PHP application on top of that, and everything works. And you don't have to care about which version of the database works with which version of the operating system, and these kind of problems you can have. Another example would be installation images for specific hardware. So one example is the EPC, which is also a real-world example, and appliances which already have been built with Studio. So you can put all the drivers you need, specific software you need, put it together into one bundle and have an installation image you can just use on the computer you make the appliance for. Or a more fun example would be a customized distribution for your grandmother. So if you have a grandmother which likes to use a PC, you could put her a web browser and her favorite games together with some configuration. So you make the fonts bigger, she can read it. Put a picture of yourself as background of the appliance while booting and on the desktop, and give it to your grandmother as Christmas present. So, and she will be happy, I promise. This also works with parents, by the way. Or not that would be an example for a distribution specific for a person, but you can also do a distribution specific for a target audience. So you could use a studio to create an education CD. So what the openSUSE education project, for example, is doing. So you can do that to address special target markets. Or you do a conference CD, put some browser and some data on a CD, everything put together so that it just works. So there's just a lot of examples, and what we want to do, and one of the vision behind the project is that we want to enable you to actually implement all these use cases, come up with new use cases, come up with ideas, and empower you to really implement that, use that, build that, and do that without a lot of effort. So the question is, how can we do that? Our concept is we have a web application. So it's a hosted service. Studio runs on our servers. And the only thing you need to use Studio is a web browser. So you don't need a big machine with lots of disk space and stuff like that. You can basically use Studio from your iPhone if you like. And one big focus of Studio is on the user interface. So we have put a lot of effort into making Studio a great experience for the user, to make it easy to use, to make it fast, and to make it really empower users which don't bother to use complicated command line tools and stuff like that, to enable them to still build their own appliances and their own distributions. So the way we do that is the way you create an appliance in Studio is you clone something which already exists. So you can use some of the ready-made templates. You can create a text-only appliance or some basic desktop appliance. Or you can also clone existing appliances. So make variants of existing stuff, and you can share that again, and then people can work together on making software better and making better distributions, better appliances. And to get all the software which is in the world into that, not only the stuff which is in openSUSE anyway, we have a tight build service integration, so you can import all the software which is in the build service and put it into Studio and run it there. So in this altogether create some kind of contribution stack. So upstream developers are writing their code, writing a great application, all the free software which is around, maintain that somewhere in some source code management tool. And then you can packages go and build packages from that in the openSUSE build service, which is a great tool to collect all this upstream software and make packages from it. And then with SUSE Studio, a distributor, and that not only means a company doing distributions, but that means a user acting as distributor, can go along and just combine the stuff and tune it, configure it, and put it together to something, a new product, maybe very specialized product or something very generalized, whatever the user wants to do, put it together and give it to users. So in the endpoint is the user, which is down there, if you can see it, who then can use the software. And by making it accessible and easy to use these tools, we also want to encourage users to become distributors, to enable users to actually make their own distribution, and maybe then move up the stack and also package some more interesting software and other interesting software, or maybe even get involved into upstream development and work on improved applications they use. So that's just an idea about the philosophy, how we hopefully can enable people to contribute and to work together on great distributions. So now just a few words about the basic workflow in Studio. We will see more of that in the demo. But the three building blocks are create, test, and share. So we provide an editor to create appliances, to create distributions, which is has a nice UI. You will see that later. We have a feature to test the appliance on the server, so you don't have to download it. You can run it on our server. You can connect to it in the browser and boot it, modify it, have a look at it, test it. You also will see that later in the demo. And then when you are happy about your appliance, you can put it, you can share it with other users. So this is something which is still under construction. That's not yet live. So we are working on that, and hopefully you can enable it soon. And so when you're happy with your appliance, you release it to the public. And then it appears on our shared area in Studio, and other people can see it, can use it, can download it, can clone it to create an own variant of that. So if you see, okay, somebody has created a great appliance, has done some clever tricks, you can just use that, put your own software on top of that, and publish it again as an improved or another version of something. So you can, whatever, replace desktop environments or whatever you want to do. So and by this, we want to enable the community to work together in distribution building and to make it really easy and quick to create what users actually want. So just a few words about the implementation of that. You don't have to read that. That's the architecture of Studio. It's a pretty complex system. We use a couple of different servers talking to each other via HTTP. We have our web application here, which schedules jobs, and we share some data. There's some data storage and stuff like that. So basically, one challenge of this is to make it scalable in a way. So that's why we use this pretty modular architecture of different servers. So we run a farm of backend nodes to build appliances and to run test drive. And how did we do that? Basically, what we did, we put Kiwi on Rails. So Kiwi is the command line front end or the command line tool to build openSUSE images. Like you had, if you attended the talk before, you heard already about that. It's a command line tool which creates images, which is great for openSUSE, and it can output all kind of different formats: virtual appliances, VMware images, live CDs, and different stuff. And our user interface is mostly written in Rails, Ruby on Rails, and this covers all the web front end, and we also use it internally as HTTP server and to implement APIs and stuff like that. As login system, we use OpenID, which is a great distributed authentication system, where you don't have to, where you can reuse your OpenID account to log into multiple systems. And in the back end, we use for running builds in some secure way. We use KVM as that's the virtualization implementation, which is in the kernel. And we use that to run contained builds for security reasons. And we also use this to run the test drive, where you start the appliance on the server. And another tool I want to mention is libsatsolver, which is the great software dependency resolution backend, which is also used by Zypper and Yast. And we also use that to provide our package dependency resolution and to provide live feedback about dependencies, so users see at once which packages are available and what they need. So that's for the overview about Studio, and now I will give the word to Daniel to show you what Studio can actually do.
Kann man das hören? Nee. Okay. Okay. After Cornelius already gave you a brief overview of SUSE Studio, I would like to give you a brief demo in which I create a KDE4 appliance, including Firefox. So I'll select all the software, and then we'll start it and test it and modify it, and then I'll show you what you can do with the modifications so that you don't have to download anything. You can do the whole process in the browser. So usually what you do when you do an appliance, you have a set of software in mind you want to show off to people, or you want to run as an appliance as a dedicated service. And usually those are different groups you usually start off from. If you have a server, you usually have a text-based appliance. If you have a desktop, you usually have a GNOME or KDE-based desktop. So that's why we provide a few templates where you start off from, so you don't have to start from scratch. But we want to build the KDE4 appliance now, so we start with the KDE4 template, and then from there we just refine our software. So it's very few steps in order to go from here to our KDE4 Mozilla appliance. On the first page, you're just welcomed, and you can give the appliance a name, and you get a short introduction from where to go now. So as we start with the KDE4 template, we already have kind of a pre-selection of software, which we want to refine now. So we want to add a browser, etc., etc. So if you go to the software tab, you already see like repositories and software, all stuff you probably know already when you use Yast or if you use Linux. So the repositories that were added in this template are the openSUSE 11.1 plus the openSUSE 11.1 update repositories. Then we selected some software for you. Patterns are, if you don't know, those are software bundles, so it's a selection of software. And as we selected the KDE4 appliance, we have the KDE4 pattern in here. So if you click on it, you get some information. You see, okay, it's including KDE basis, and then it has like, it recommends some software. Like you get the basic stack for KDE4 here, but if you want to have the full experience, you should install KDE4 Internet Multimedia, etc., etc. And if you want to add this software, you could just do it by press the Add All button. Apart from the patterns, we have some basic packages that get installed as well. For example, the KDM as a login manager. If you want to remove a software, you just click the X button here, and it gets removed. And then you get an instant feedback of what just happened on the sidebar, usually. Yeah, I'll show that in a bit as well. So I just removed the YAS2 package. If I want to add other packages now, I can either search for software or I can use the browsing mode, which reflects the RPM groups. So if I go in development, for example, I guess I get a list of all development packages. I can search only within development because I have the in-devel here in KDE. If I want to add Firefox, for example, I search for Firefox. Then I add Firefox here. And it shows up here in my software selection now. And we do like the resolving, we do on the fly. So apart from Firefox, it had some dependencies it needs to fill in. So it just told us I added 34 megabytes and the other packages it added as well. I want to have the standard KDE branding, the search branding and KDE, so you can do OR and AND searches here. If I add the upstream branding from KDE, I'll get a conflict now because you can't install openSUSE and KDE packages, and you get instant feedback here as well. Like those packages can't be installed at the same time. And if you want to solve this problem, you just click one of those two links, which removes one of the packages, which is troublesome. So I remove the openSUSE package now. So now we start with the KDE4 template. We added Mozilla, and for now that's actually what we want to have. So our software selection is finished. If there would be some software, for example, KDE 4.2, if you wanted to edit something of that software, that's not found because it's not in our openSUSE 11.1 repository. Then you get a message down here. I don't know if you can read it from behind there, but it's like it wasn't found, but you can search in other repositories. So if you click this button, this takes you to the repository page and searches in other repository that we have cached on our servers. So here you can see now that you have the KDE4 devel pattern in this repository here, which is from the build service. If the package was still not found, you can easily add a new project from the build service just by providing the name if it's a build service project. Or if you have some other RPM repository, some on the web, you can just provide a URL and give it a name and then add this repository. So if I add this repository here, and I go back to the software overview, it shows up here. I get the software changes on the side here because it removed the 11.1 KDE packages and took the packages from KDE factory because they are newer. It always takes the new software, and it updated the search here as well. So now you have a hit for the KDE 4.2 search. I remove that for now again. Okay. So now we have actually selected all our software, and we can go on configuring our appliance. So we have some basic configurations here. Like for example, the language, you can set it to like static values, or for example, if you want to do an appliance which you want to ship all over Europe, you can do like ask on first boot, which is the Just feature. So like the first time the appliance boots, you can set the language, and then it stays like that forever. So we have that for language, keyboard layout, even for network as well. I mean, the default is DHCP. You can do it manually if you want, or you can just do the ask on first boot as well. Then we have some other firewall, for example. You can add a new user. We have default user Ut and Tux or Tux. It's all pretty easy, so remove it. So we go on here, startup there, you can select the run level you want to start in. So if you have a graphical system, but you don't want it to start in graphical mode, you can switch it to like normal console mode or run level 3. You have a server, for example, if you have a MySQL database and you have a MySQL dump, you can just upload it and the MySQL database will be preloaded with this dump. And here at the side, you see again that there's an error now because you said, okay, please enable MySQL, but you didn't have that in your package selection. So if you click the link, then this package will be added. So we try to make it really easy. One thing I can show as well, if we have an error, we couldn't build later because this build button gets disabled. So we try really to prevent that you start building appliances which will not work later. On the desktop, you can select to automatically log in your user. And if you want to start, if it's like a Firefox kiosk, browsing kiosk, and you want to auto start Firefox when you log in, you just provide the binary here. And this program will be started when you boot the appliance. Storage and memory are some settings. When you have VMware, you can set the RAM size to a certain size, but that's not that interesting right now. Personalize, you can easily theme your appliance. So I did a photo of this room before. So you can upload it, and then you have, so that's the grub, that's the boot screen. That's how your appliance will look like later. So it's just uploading an image with one click, then everything's themed. Okay, overlay files, I will come back to those later. And now actually we are ready. We ready to build. We selected all our software. We configured some basic things. And now we only select the build type we want to have later. Currently we have activated a disk image, which is something you can just put on a USB stick, and this USB stick will boot. We have a live CD and VMware images. And now when this is finished, I won't build it now because this takes like 5 or 6 minutes. So I built it earlier. When this is finished, it looks like this. And then you can, if you want to get a brief overview at first, you can do view files, which gives you, you can browse the file system here. But the major feature which really distinguishes, I think, this appliance builder from a lot of others is that you can test drive this, which means it opens another browser window and has a Java update running, which is connected to a VNC server, and then it boots your appliance here. So there's the lookup thing, and now I boot the appliance inside. And so now you can test your appliance, and this stuff is really, really important. Because once you boot the appliance and you do some changes, for example, if you have an Apache appliance and you adjust the configuration file, for example, you change this file and then later you go to modified file and you get a list of all files that were changed, and you can put these files later in your appliance. And this is the overlay files tab I was talking about earlier. So what you can do, usually you install software, you have your whole system, you have your directory tree, and after that you can say, I would like to have a special file, like this, FOSDEM PNG, in my home directory, as user and permissions and everything. So that's, for example, when you have configuration files you already have ready on your computer, you can just upload your Apache configuration file, put it in the right directory, and then Apache will behave as you want it to behave. Go back to test drive. Okay, it's booting up. I activated auto login, so it's logging into KDE now. That's the greeting. And now Firefox should show up as well. Close this as first. One thing I will do now, I will create a new file to show you this modified files feature. Save this file. Meanwhile, Firefox showed up, so the auto start did work. So and if you go now to modified files, this takes a while the first time. This list of all the files which were modified during startup. And what you can do, you can download the file, you can do, or you can just view it inline. And now if I do another, oh, it's Mozilla. So now I have to look for this FOSDEM file I just created. Ah, that was. Okay, here's the FOSDEM file I created earlier on the desktop. I can view it and get an error. But what the main feature is, I can select this file and say, add this to my appliance. And what happens is when I go in overlay files now, this file shows now up. So I created it on desktop with FOSDEM, and next time I rebuild this appliance, it will be at the right place with the right user and the right permissions and everything. So that's how you can tweak your appliance. And then some other features in test drive are you can connect with SSH to your test drive. So if you don't want to type in the Java applet, you just connect with SSH, you can do your changes and then go to modified files and see all the changes as well. Or if it is a web application, you can browse to it on port 80 and for 443, the HTTPS. Yeah, so you have the complete process in this web appliance. And building, this is all running on this little laptop now. Like this KDE 4 build took 8 minutes here. On our servers, it's a little bit faster. So it's not really long. It's not really long time you have to wait. So it's pretty quick to do the whole process. That's. And now Jordi wants to talk about some appliances he built with SUSE Studio.
Okay, so I've done 20 appliances with SUSE Studio, and we have a DVD. We have one copy for everyone with those 20 appliances. We have appliances that are web-based, like the appliances he talked about before. We have a YOM appliance, a Moodle, a Sugar Serium, eGroupware. We have MySQL appliances. We have Postgres appliances, WordPress. Well, we have 20 appliances. Then we have a build service appliance also. So if you were at the previous talks about the open build service, you have one appliance, so you can have your own build service. We also have a appliance, LimeJuice development appliance. That's an appliance that has the Kiwi models we were seeing before. So you can build your own distribution using the Kiwi. The Kiwi is what we have behind SUSE Studio. So if you want to learn how it works, you also have one here. Then we have some games. We have a chess appliance, a JetBrains appliance, and a Mojo Portal appliance. That's a CMS done with Mono. Yeah, we have 20 appliances. So we I'm giving this to you now, and it would be great to have some feedback, if you like, and tell us what you think about.
There's another thing. I asked Andrew to because he built some EPC appliances, which I think is pretty interesting. So this gets openSUSE on the EPC. So and this also was done with Studio. So
yeah, as one of many thousands of people, I've got a EPC netbook, and one of the things with the netbook is due to ASUS's wisdom, they've got some specific drivers that aren't upstream, so none of the distributions package it by default. So instead of users having to add separate repositories and mess around, try and find the right applications and software that they need to get their EPC running, I decided that Studio would be an ideal test bed to see if it works. Basically, I just chose both a standard GNOME template, KDE template, added the respective repositories to get all the applications on there, the ASUS drivers, both for ACPI, the on-screen display. I also added the multimedia aspects, so people could, out of the box, play their audio files, play their video files. I included the, some of the less than desirable applications like Acrobat Reader or Adobe Flash. I've added Moonlight on there. So out of the box, you've got a netbook that can boot up into Linux and access all websites, media that you need. It took me all of about 15-20 minutes to get it up and running. The test drive feature really does help a lot. You can get on there, fire up test drive. You'll see instances where you've forgotten to include an application or a package in your install list. Something's missing, you go back, add the application, rebuild, yeah, it's all there. You can have multiple versions of your build available. So if you want to keep tweaking, but your base build's fine, you have that as your 0.1, and then you can move on and carry on adding, and you can see the growth from there. And modified files list again does help being able to tweak configurations, for instance hotkeys and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it all works very easily.
thank you. Okay, and to conclude, SUSE Studio runs on SUSEstudio.com. You can go there, see it. We currently run an alpha version for invited users, so this is still under heavy development. It's bleeding edge. So we don't have it publicly available yet. But if you want to use it, let us know, give us your email address, and we will send you an invitation so you can try it and use it. There are also mailing lists, IRC channels. That's all available from the SUSE Studio homepage. And if you want to know more or want to try a Studio yourself, go to the openSUSE booth. We have a demo station there with Studio, and you can build an appliance, get it burned on a DVD or written to a USB stick and take it with you at home. Yeah, so that's it about SUSE Studio. Other questions?
So, can I install like SUSE Studio at my company? I mean, in my own servers?
At the moment, that's not possible yet. So at the moment, it's only a hosted service. So we run it, and it's it wouldn't be easy to install. So at the moment, it's just a hosted service. Yeah.
Okay. Can I make my virtual machines? I mean, the distributions are built private, so they are not public. Because when I tried it, I think you have to you must make it public.
No, it's your build by default is private, so it's not accessible to anyone else than you. So, and only if you explicitly publish it, then it will be visible to other users. So you can do your own stuff. We are also working on a feature where you can upload your own RPMs, so you can do proprietary projects with Studio as well.
Can you create the distribution from the novel? I mean, from the SUSE commercial version instead of openSUSE, from the novel desktop version?
Yeah. At the moment, we only support openSUSE, but we are working on SLAS and SLAT support for SLAS and SLAT 11. So when this will be released, we will enable it in some way. It's not completely clarified how this will be done if it will be available to everybody or only partners or whatever. But we're working on that, and so that's also a target and the goal of Studio, to make it possible to build SLAS based appliances.
I was wondering about the way you get this new appliance on a medium. With CDs, it's easy, you burn ISO. What about USB sticks?
Yeah, USB sticks is a bit problematic. We provide instructions how to do that. So you can do it on the command line. We provide instructions how to do it. What we also have, it's still under development as well, but we have a tool which is able to write disk images to USB sticks. So that's a graphical tool which scans your system and just offers all the devices you have and then writes it, shows progress. So, and it even runs under Windows. So that's we haven't released it yet, but that's a problem. Yeah, you can see it at the booth. Okay, other questions? No? Okay, great, then thank you.